I think quite a good number have now come in. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our tonight's presentation by Veroshen Naidoo. He's going to present to us on business finance. I am Councillor Fawzia, but I am the Vice President of Minara Chamber of Commerce. So I'm actually going to be hosting you tonight. So let me just give you a little background on our presenter tonight. I see he's quite keen, and I'm sure he's going to be giving us some very good advice. So Veroshen Naidoo is employed currently as an area manager at Business Partners Limited for the past 16 years. Wow. Normally these youngsters always want to go for greener pastures, but looks like he's quite embedded in this place. He heads up the Midlands Northern Natal region as well. So his career started as an auditor at Ernst & Young. During his career, he has gained an extensive, in-depth knowledge of the SMME market. I must say, Veroshen, I'm going to be really at you to, get more information on writing reports and also financial assistance with SMME sector. So Naidoo's skills amongst the rest, he has various aspects of due diligence processes, which include dealing with structuring, report writing, which I'm so interested to know more about, as well as technical and financial assistance within the SMME sector. Now, in addition to his BCom degree, in which he majored in accounting, auditing, management, accounting, and finance and taxation, he has successfully completed the SAFCA and Gibbs Foundation program in venture capital and private equity at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, University of Pretoria. So he doesn't stop, he's young, so he carries on with his fortune of information that he has. He's now also studying towards CIMA. He's trying to get his qualification there. So, Mr. Naidoo, we trust that all the participants are going to enjoy your presentation tonight. It's a very good topic and you're well versed in it. So once again, welcome all of you, and the floor is yours. And I'm sure after your presentation, we will take some questions from those members that are on board. And you can post your questions to the chat box, of course, in which Veroshen will answer at about, say, 7:45 or so after his formal presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Naidoo. You can take the floor now.
Thank you, Fawzia. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, thank you to the Minara Chamber of Commerce for allowing me the opportunity to enlighten its members about business partners and the space that we play within the SME sector. As mentioned, I'm Veroshen Naidoo. I'm an area manager in the Durban and surrounding area at Business Partners Limited. Just to start off, I just want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the single most important activity in our economy, as most of you would know. It's the only activity that enables enterprises like South Africans to apply the mind to create new value, to create new wealth, new money, and new jobs. Without it, we are simply eroding the value that was created by entrepreneurs in the past. Just a definition of entrepreneurship from Harvard Business School, Professor Howard Stevenson. It's as follows, I quote, "Entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled," close quote. This quote perfectly captures the nature of entrepreneurship and highlights some key qualities that successful entrepreneurs share. Entrepreneurs share, as most of you know, they're confident in themselves and their abilities. They recognize that they don't know everything or control all the available resources. Instead, they have a keen ability to understand what they need, and then they go and get it. We are here this evening, obviously, to celebrate and encourage these entrepreneurs, the unsung heroes in South Africa's SME market. I prepared a slideshow. I just want to take you through business partners and the role that we play in assisting the entrepreneurs and SMEs within our South African sector. Okay, firstly, I'm going to play the credo of business partners. This is what we stand for and how we assist entrepreneurs.
I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon if I can.
I seek opportunity, not security. I want to take a calculated risk.
To dream and to build, to fail and to succeed.
It is my heritage to stand proud and unafraid, to think and act for myself.
To enjoy the benefit of my creations.
And to face the world boldly and say, this I have done. I am an entrepreneur.
I'm just going to give you a bit of history on business partners and who we are. We are a risk specialist finance company. We've been around for now, in this month, 40 years. We customize financial solutions, sector knowledge. We've also got mentorship available, business premises and other added value services within the SME sector and the sub-Saharan Africa. We're passionate about funding, supporting and mentoring entrepreneurs, or as we like to call them, the square pegs in round holes. If you notice on our logo as well, we have a square peg amongst these round holes. We see entrepreneurs as those square pegs. Where we invest. So we invest in all sectors, excluding primary agriculture. So we look at manufacturing, we look at retailing, green economy, services, franchises, contracts, as well as commercial property. I'll just go into a bit more detail on the commercial side of it a bit later in the presentation. The type of investments that we make, we do management takeovers, management buyouts, we do expansion capital, which could be stock, equipment, asset finance. We look at startup businesses as well, so long as there's viability merits in the business. We look at property acquisitions. So we are business partners. We look at investing in the entrepreneur. We back the jockey driving the business. Because ultimately, if the jockey has a bad day, the business has a bad day. Our capital starts between 500,000 going to 50 million Rand. Like I mentioned, we risk financiers. We, unlike other commercial financiers, we are more secured based. We look at taking risks. We will fund where others wouldn't. It could be a lack of nature of securities offered where the banks don't finance. The policies of different financiers could be the lack of own contribution. The type of industry could be regarded as risk, and the track record. So many businesses, they have the high and lows, and during those lows, they probably miss payments on their bonds. And once that happens, they get listed, and if they go back to the banks turn them away because of those RDs. We look at their history with the banks. We look at if they've resolved it, and we do know businesses goes through up and down. So we look at the business in its entirety and as a bigger picture. Our major focus obviously is on entrepreneurial ability and viability when considering funding. So as long as there's viability, we will fund. And as long as there's a right jockey backing the business. In terms of viability-based funding, we look at two basics. We look at business risk evaluation. We look at the business, the nature and the stage of the business. Obviously, if the businesses are in existence for more than 2 years, they've got some track record, so we can assess and analyze the financials and look at the market that that business plays in. We look at the gearing of the business, which is also very important, and the profit potential and the history. We look at also the growth potential. So many businesses could be on an upward growth, so we could look at funding that. In terms of the entrepreneur, we look at his experience, his technical skills, and his management skills. The track record of the entrepreneur in terms of his credit history, how he conducted himself in business during the course of his longevity of the business. We look at the profile, and ultimately we look at the integrity of the business. We place a lot of reliance on the integrity and ethics of the entrepreneur. Our business model is quite straightforward and quite simple. Like I mentioned, we tailor-made financiers. Our investment terms and return required will obviously depend on the own contribution offered by the entrepreneur, the surety of the entrepreneur. So the cheapest possible deal, we would look at a one-to-one cover on security collateral offered. But as I mentioned, we're in the risk market. So even if the deal is not fully secured, we can still go ahead with funding the proposal for the funding. The returns are obtained basically from the following 3 increments. We look at interest rate, we look at a royalty fee, and we look at shareholding. Now the perception out there is when they look at business partners, is business partners take shares in the business and business partners takes control. I'd just like to mention in our last financial year of funding, of those transactions, only 1% of them constituted a shareholding option in the business. So it's not that type of funding where we just fund and take shares in the business. The one product that I want to speak to you guys about today is called commercial property finance, where we fund up to 100% on commercial property, where the tenant is occupying the property. So it's owner use. So the tenant is the entrepreneur, and now he's got an option to buy his property. Firstly, to secure tenure, and also he saves on the increase on the rent going forward. If you're renting, your rent is probably increasing by 6 to 8% per year. He's got an option now to buy the property. And many SMEs don't have a 30% deposit. That deposit is generally what the banks require. And on a 5 million transaction, you're going to need about 1.5 million before you approach the banks. And we understand that many SMEs don't have that. Or even if they do have that deposit, they can turn it around much faster in the cash flow of the business. So we look at, in terms of that, this deal, we look at it firstly, it needs to be owner occupied. The business needs to be established for at least 2 years, and the business needs to afford the loan installments. So majority of it will already be rent that they're paying off, and there will be initially a small difference, and generally the profits of the business cover that. Our interest rates are very competitive in that regard. Our loan is priced at prime +1, which is 8%. It's done over a 10-year period. We also offer a 6-month capital moratorium period. So when the owner takes transfer of the property, he just pays interest for the first 6 months. So it also eases the cash flow of the business. How we structured this deal is that the deal is structured with prime +1. Business partners takes a shareholding in the property owning entity. And over the period of time when the business can afford buying back that share, they're able to, when the cash flow obviously allows so. There's no dividends that's paid, there's no fixed monthly rentals, and the exit strategy is discussed upfront. Just to go through a little model, a little graph on how it is. So your purchase price of the property constitutes of 3 portions. One is the secured portion, which is the green portion. This green portion is generally what the bank would finance. This is the 70%, right? The red portion is the unsecured portion. That is the risk portion where you'd need to take a deposit and go to the bank for funding. The last portion obviously is the fees associated with it. So many of the transactions that we do, we finance the costs as well, whether it be transfer costs, VAT, the transfer duty, and the administration fee to process the application. The benefits that are offered to the entrepreneur for these type of properties are basically the cash flow of the operating business remains intact. Like I mentioned, they don't have to strip the cash flow from the business to use as a deposit for the property. The business secures its tenureship as well, especially for large manufacturing concern. They're at the mercy of the landlord if they're renting. So if the landlord decides, you know what, the lease is up and they want the tenant to move, in terms of moving all of that equipment, the relocation cost is quite high and significant. The property after 10 years provides an income stream as well to the entrepreneur. So if he wants to close down his business, he can rent out that property. It builds wealth creation as well for him. And as with a corporate shareholder as a partner, we add credibility to the balance sheet of the business. We also fund multi-tenanted properties. So these are purely investment properties for your affluent commercial property investors. So we can finance those properties as well, so long as there's blue chip tenants and a good mix of tenants as well. So that's also done on an equity basis. So generally how that deal works is that we go 50% ownership with the entrepreneur. He contributes some of the shareholders' loans, 50% of it, we will as well. And we generally do the first bond over the property as well. And in terms of looking at these deals, it builds a lot of wealth creation for your commercial property investors, because over 10 years, the property is freehold, and the property generally over 10 years doubles as well. So they would have made a lot of equity with only investing a small portion towards the property acquisition. Just a little detail of it, right? So a bank would fund 60% of the purchase price. So if we look at a 10 million transaction, your first bond is generally 6 million. Business partners will fund 2 million towards shareholders' loans. The entrepreneur will fund a further 2 million, which takes the total acquisition to 100%. The ownership is split between business partners and the entrepreneur, which is 50-50. And our shareholders' loans are recorded as with no fixed term or no fixed term of repayment, no interest as well. When the loan balance reduces, obviously the equity increases for both parties, and we can use that equity and fund further commercial investment properties. These are some of the properties that we invested in KZN. This is in Newcastle. It's the Newcastle Office Park. It was a 60 million transaction. The entrepreneurs only had 11 million to contribute towards that. So we put in another 11 and we got Investec to fund the first bond on it. We took a 49% shareholding, reason being is that the entrepreneurs came to us with that sort of deal. So there's another product that we also offer within the SME sector. It's the Technical Assistance Program. So how this works is that we fund the setup of a plant where we do the commissioning and the training at 0% interest. The asset finance can be financed by us, or it can be financed by a bank, but it's very cheap funding, and we generally consolidate this type of funding with our normal funding, which reduces the effective rate to the clients as well. The TA program basically aims to reduce the cost of doing business within the SME sector. We improve access to appropriate finance for SMEs. We also support SMEs to better manage their business in terms of getting FICA compliant and ultimately sustaining their profitability and competitiveness. What's allowable within this technical assistance fund is writing or preparation of a marketing plan. So if a business needs a marketing plan to go out actively marketing, we can look at funding that. We look at legal assistance in terms of business formation, your licenses, agreements, patents as well, trademarks, recruitment of specialist staff, creation of internet capabilities in terms of setting up a web page, installation of software as well, which we've done quite a lot of, travel and preparation costs for expos and trade fairs, mentoring, training of staff, and commissioning of equipment and the software as well, which I mentioned earlier. What makes us different to other commercial financiers or development financiers? Firstly, the approach that you get from business partners. We have quite a big staff complement of investment officers that go out to have a look at the business, and they get involved with the entrepreneur in assessing the deal as well. And we tailored in terms of structuring a deal. So it's not that this deal is the only deal that we've got on the table. We also offer other options to the client, and it's a win-win solution for both the entrepreneur and business partners, and a fair deal is concluded. Our desire is to make funding available, which we have done for the past 40 years. We're in fact the lead financier within the SME sector. Is personal contact. So you will meet the investment officer handling the application. It's not done via a contact center whereby you go through different channels and you don't end up accessing funding. So you will be dealing one-on-one with one of our staff. Our funding, like I mentioned, is very, very flexible. And we also prepared to take risk, where others aren't. This also, before I just finish up, I just want to, just a second, just want to leave you with a thought. Sorry, Shamima, I wonder if you can help me here.
All right, no problem.
Okay, no, I managed to get it.
It's fine. Okay.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I just want to leave you with a thought, right, before we go to questions. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle or it will starve. It doesn't matter whether you're the lion or a gazelle, when the sun comes up, you better be running. Thank you. We can take some questions.
Okay, let's see. Did you get any questions in writing? There was one.
Yeah, there was one question. Do we offer Sharia finance?
Yes.
We're actually working on a model for this. Nothing's been finalized yet, but I do know that EXCO is working on this. So hopefully in the near future, we should have some sort of funding that we can look at in terms of offering Sharia compliance finance.
Okay, so any other questions? I think what I liked most, Mr. Naidoo, was the fact that what makes you different from the rest is the personal attention, the one-to-one attention that you give to people that needs your attention. But,
absolutely.
Yes, and the very fact that you would encourage and mentor entrepreneurs to assist them and also the SMMEs, that's so important, you know, because that kind of advice and mentorship, very rare do you find them because people are so busy. And there's only one problem I find, possibly because of where I come from, is that, you know, you want entrepreneurs, you would help them, those that have track record and any other point that you have made, you know. So what happens to people who want to do business, who want to start something? Because you know, I used to get at my office nearly every day youngsters that have graduated with business science and many other academic, you know, records that they hold, but they can't do anything simply because all they have fulfilled is the you know, the academic side of it. But to start off something, how on earth will you all assist youngsters that come by the hundreds to us to say, we don't even know what to do if we are invited for an interview, you know?
Yeah, so Fawzia, what we do, right? We have an internship program where we employ some of these people, right? And they gain experience into business partners and within the SME sector. And we also run funds time to time. We ran a successful Cllr startup fund where we assisted young entrepreneurs from the age of 23 going up to 35. And many of them have been very successful, and they went on to take on more finance from business partners where we financed properties for them. So we do offer these programs quite a bit, so long as the idea is viable, right? And we've got a strong entrepreneur in terms of capabilities, the skill and the acumen to drive that business, we do invest in them.
Okay, that's good to hear, because I mean, that gives some kind of encouragement, that we can possibly. So can we send them to you and you do a screening? Because that's very important. Some may come with absolutely no idea and you can't start anything with them. But those who have ideas but don't have a capital, to start something. So yes. I think big firms should try, and I won't call it a social responsibility, but some kind of assistance that way. So I'm glad you do that.
Yeah, we also run a program with the universities as well. So where you get your second and third year students who are studying towards entrepreneurship, and we offer courses, and we sponsor that as well. So those programs do exist. I'll give you more information on it, and we can take that further.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Okay, so I see with the bond that is taken out, can you read it? Because I just read one line from Zain.
Yeah, and I see it. You foresee the commercial property market returning to pre-COVID returns, considering that you're promoting commercial, with the bond that is taken out to commercial banks for 60% of the commercial property finance be taken out in the name of the applicant, or would it be a joint bond with the applicant? Okay, so just to answer the first question, right? In the terms of the commercial sector, there are your properties where you get a much lower than your market initially, what it used to be during pre-COVID, but many of those properties are returning back to normal. So you can get a 10, 15% discount on it. We noticed with the office space, there's quite a bit out there. Many businesses are now moving their office part of it home, staff working from home. So there's a lot of those available. We try to stay away from the office part of it. In terms of commercial and industrial, we've noticed over this past 6 to 8 months that property sector has increased, and we're funding quite a bit of that. And we're going up to pre-COVID market related values there. In terms of the commercial property in the 60% bond, we can finance that 60% bond, business partners. The bond is in the name of the borrower. So what we do is we'll set up a new company where the entrepreneur is 50% owner and business partners 50%, and the bond is done on the borrower's name.
We have another question by Faisal Suleiman. Can you read it out, please?
Yes. Can you elaborate on the exit strategy that you mentioned, perhaps using an example? So how we'd work it out is, if we're looking at these commercial property transactions where business partners are shareholding, we look at past trends on the property and how the property values have increased. So we've got a RODA report as well, and we've got independent expert valuators. So we'd obviously look at the property escalating over a period. We look at the past trends and we base our exit on those trends. So there is a structured exit that we do initially when we finance it. So the entrepreneur is aware of the exit. So when it comes to year 4, year 5, when he does want to exit, it's no surprise to him.
Any other questions? No more? So I think, Mr. Naidoo, you have said it all. And sometimes I don't think we must be dismayed if we don't have much questions. It's like saying that you have fulfilled all the, within them, whatever they had to ask. The question. Good. Yeah, yeah. I must say I enjoyed your presentation a lot. And hopefully we would like to have you one day as face-to-face. And
that would be great.
Yeah,
and you can meet our team as well.
Absolutely. I think there's another one from 2 questions there. I think go for it.
Okay, excellent. Do you consider hotels and eco-lodges as commercial properties? Yeah, so we do finance hotels and eco-lodges, and we fund that over a 10-year period, similar to the example that I gave you guys earlier. So that's yes. And in terms of contact at business partners, Sanjay Premdat, one of our staff at Business Partners, is also present. But you can also contact me directly. Fawzia, I'll send you my contact details. And perhaps you can forward it to everybody on the chamber and Sanjay as well.
Yes, of course. Please do that.
Excellent.
Yeah, lovely. So you answered all those last two questions, did you? Because I just got a bit busy somewhere. All
Yeah, I
right.
did.
So, yeah, Mr. Naidoo, I think I want to thank you fully for coming on this evening. You were a very dynamic youngster, and hopefully we'll see you again. And are you based
Excellent.
in Durban? Are you based in
Yes, I
Durban?
am. I am at the Westfield offices, correct.
Ah, close to me, Derby Downs. Are you, or further up by
We
Pavilion?
at Jan Hofmeyer.
Oh, you're not opposite my place. Oh, okay, lovely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, you'll send me your relevant documents and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Have a
Excellent.
lovely.
Thanks, Fawzia. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you to
Bye.
the Minara Commerce, and
Salam
thank you
to
to
all the
everybody
others.
who was present.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.